Welcome back to the ESPN HOOPS and HITS podcast presented by Tab. I'm the Scud, joined by my man, the Grub. And Grub is a very happy Eagles fan. You didn't have a pick later on into the first round, Grub, but rocking the colours, reigning Super Bowl champions, and we're going to, here's a little sneak peek for people watching the start of the episode, for the end of the episode. After discussing everything that happened in the draft, we're going to get the odds up with the Tab and look at the future bets and see if anything's changed and see if we think the Eagles can go back to back.
Well, after the draft, I'm going to say absolutely we can. Absolutely.
You like the draft,
I like the draft. I like the draft in general.
Yeah.
It is like a movie.
It is.
You just think things are going to happen. You go on X and Twitter and it's just like, this is great.
I seen someone talking about it. It was an NFL pundit talking about how strong the NFL's going right now. And he brought up a great point. The numbers for the draft smash the numbers for the NBA finals. And all the draft is selecting players, watching coaches and GMs sit on couches or in boardrooms and select a player that's not going to play for 4 months, and it gets more ratings than what the NBA Finals gets. That's how big of an occasion the NFL draft and the NFL has become. And, we're going to talk about the NBA Finals too, because your Lakers are looking a little bit, struggling a little bit at the moment. But it's the mecca of the NFL, and the draft is such a cool concept. Like, before we even get into it, I know it's foreign to what we do here in the NRL. And there's really no way of replicating it for us, I don't think, without having a collegiate system like they do over there.
So different.
But imagine being, a high school kid coming out of the old, when I played, it was the Arrival I system. It's probably changed the name now. But being an 18-year-old and not having the ability to pick where you play, Grub, to not become a Bulldog, for me to not, play for Parramatta early on, well, that's where I grew up. That'd be a weird feeling, wouldn't it?
It is weird. But even just like with the whole draft, like you can think you're going somewhere, like, you're pretty confident, then it changes.
Yeah.
On the day. So you could be going to like a mad place like Miami.
Yeah. And then, New York.
And then you end up in Green Bay.
Cleveland. Oh, there's no need for that, mate.
Hey, also though, Green Bay done a great job.
Yeah,
how good was that?
I'm very happy with Green Bay. The way they run it,
man,
it's they live and breathe.
They love it. You can tell
they live and breathe NFL football in Lambeau, in Wisconsin. It's we don't really have a strong basketball program there. I know like the collegiate system is goes okay, but we don't have basketball there. NFL is the mecca. We got the Milwaukee Bucks. They're okay, but nowhere near to the level of like the fandom and support that the Packers have got. So
it's just when they were doing those wide shots of all the people, mate, 120,000, I think there was. Like, that is just unbelievable. Like, screaming fans loving it, and they get into it.
And apparently, there's nothing else to do there. All there is Lambeau Field, this little strip, like a few restaurants, and then it's just the draft. So to get the numbers that they got there, I thought it looked really good. So awesome. We'll chat a lot about the draft. Obviously, I spent a bit of time on there. We're going to get to the basketball. The series between the Nuggets and Clippers has been unbelievable. The Lakers look like they're struggling at the moment, currently down 3-1. Let's see if LeBron and Luka can come up with a miracle to fight their way out of that series. And then we'll debate in a little bit more detail about what happened to Shedeur Sanders and some of the stuff that happened to him. And we'll start with that, actually. We'll kick it off with Left on Red. And this one comes from Twitter, and it comes from Matthew Berry TMR. Oh, action, ridiculous. And this BS statement from Atlanta isn't strong enough. Shame on the entire Ulbrich family. Whatever you think of Shedeur, everyone deserves to be treated with respect. This is off the back of Jax Ulbrich, who is the son of the defensive coordinator for Atlanta, who was, I believe, Jeff Ulbrich was the coach for Jets last year, interim coach for the Jets. On Friday night, I made a tremendous mistake. Shedeur, what I did was completely inexcusable, embarrassing, and shameful. I'm so sorry it took away from your moment. I was selfish and childish. I could never imagine getting ready to celebrate one of the greatest moments of your life, and I made a terrible mistake and messed your moment. Thank you for accepting my call earlier today. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. Grub or no grub, pranking not only Shedeur, but it's happened multiple times over the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, big grub.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's funny.
Yeah.
It's actually like really morally wrong. Like I just think these guys this is a big moment in their life. They've tried to get it for so many years, and to do that to them and get their hopes up, like I'm all for a G up. I love it, but that's too far.
Yeah.
I really, and especially with how it worked with Shedeur, like he was the front and center.
Yeah.
You know, and he's already under all this pressure and media scrutiny because of, who his dad is. His dad loves Showtime and the way it all pans out. And then that happened. I actually felt when I was fuming. I can't believe he took his call.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to come back from that.
You know what? Then we'll get to Shedeur a little bit later on, but I agree with everything you say. Like prank calls, probably done a prank call before in your life, haven't you?
Thousands.
Yeah, but you do, like, when you're 21 years old and you're a college student, like, that ain't it.
No.
Like, I'd give you, if I found out that Olbrich's son was 12 years old, 13 years old, for however reason, you find it on his laptop, and you do something silly like that, it'd be like, not 6 again, but you're like, probably not a grub, just immature.
Yep.
21 years old, you're a grub, you're old enough to know right from wrong. The apology is rank anyway.
Yep.
Just if you're putting up a statement, you're putting your dad under pressure too.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Shedeur said that during the stream that he was doing that only coaches and the GMs had his number, because I think maybe he was worried about this exact situation happening.
Yeah.
So if you go through a process like that for this not to happen, and then a coach's son, and not even like, you're not even the coach's son or the GM's son, you're the defensive coordinator's son.
Who are you?
Like, come on.
Grow up.
Yeah.
Mate, don't get me wrong. It was I've made a few pranks in my time about, have you heard the Wi-Fi one? You're using my Wi-Fi?
What's that one?
That's a good prank.
Yeah.
There's this old guy on the phone, and he's screaming through the phone saying, "What's your name? Are you using my Wi-Fi?" It's probably better when you hear the prank. But, yeah, look, that's it all right.
Have you done it? So is that your prank or the prank that you've heard?
So it's on your phone. You can get it on your phone. You just play it. And
Yeah.
the other person says, "What are you
Okay.
talking about, mate?"
You know what's one of my favourite ones of all time is when you call in for Chinese food, but they do to another restaurant, and it's the Chinese restaurant owners arguing over what their order is. That is hilarious.
They
too,
talk
by the
to
way.
each other. That's
Yeah.
great. But onto that. That is a huge grub
Huge
for me.
grub.
Grow up, Horo.
All right, let's get to some draft reactions. This one comes from Twitter, and Aura Farmer thinks the Panthers had a top 5 draft in the NFL. In your opinion, which team had the best draft that you can think of?
Well, I was just looking over it, and I really like what the Giants done in taking
Agreed.
Abdul Carter.
Yep.
I think he's a beast.
Yep.
I really do. I watched him a bit this year, but I actually over the weekend watched a few of his highlights, and of course it's his highlights, and he's at his best. But he's a beast, man.
He's a beast.
He'll be in the NFL for a very, very long time at a very high level.
Yeah, agreed.
And I just think the Giants are building a little bit on defense now. They've sort of flipped the switch, but I also, there's questions about Jackson Dart, but I like him. I really do. I watched him a lot this year. My only query of him is 2 games he had bad games, but big games in big moments. He wasn't really able to do that. But I also think you've got Winston and Wilson there, he can learn a bit off both of them.
Yep.
They're not.
One of them might not even make it all the way to the season.
Well, there you go.
I think probably the most obvious one is Jameis.
Yeah.
I don't, if it sort of gave them the freedom to have a pick like this and sneak back up into the first round. Abdul Carter, agree. So the reason I love Abdul Carter, I believe he's the best player in the draft.
Yep.
They get him at number 3. And the reason they get him at number 3 is because quarterbacks generally get taken higher. I like Cam Ward. I don't love Cam Ward. I really like Cam Ward, but I don't love him. So I think they got the best player in Abdul Carter. And history has shown, apart from maybe Joe Burrow and in recent history, CJ Stroud-ish, that franchises have made big calls in the top 5 and they haven't necessarily paid off for them.
Yep. Agreed.
A lot of teams overreach for quarterbacks in that spot because it is the biggest need in the team. And if you do hit on it, then you've got your franchise sorted and everything else can be played out after that. If you look historically at some of the quarterbacks that have worked that are probably at their peak in the last couple of years. Jalen Hurts was a second rounder.
Yep.
The Bills sort of sat around the 10 and 11 mark for Josh Allen. Patty Mahomes, the Chiefs had to trade back up into the mid-first round to get Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
So the value for Jackson Dart, rather than taking someone that you didn't believe in, like Shedeur Sanders or even Jackson Dart at 3, and picking the best player available, that's why I think I like what the Giants did. And plus also, they had a putrid offseason last year with Hard Knocks, Saquon, Xavier McKinney, all that stuff that went wrong for them. So they really needed to have a good draft, and I thought they did a good job.
And I just think with the Jackson Dart one, like he'll obviously, and we're going to go into the Shedeur stuff a little bit later, and I've got a few thoughts on that. But I just think he seems like a guy. I've watched him do a few interviews that wants to learn. Like he's not going to go in there thinking he's the man straight away.
Yep.
And I like that. I actually like when players aren't going to go straight in because they get to. Yeah, well, they definitely get to learn, but there's not as much pressure on them. So in the background, they can be doing the reps, and learning the offense. Doesn't mean in 2, 3, 4, 5 years you can't be the man. I just think it's a nice, softer way to get in without that pressure that you said.
Pat Mahomes sat for a year.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts sat behind Carson Wentz for at least a season. Jordan Love sat behind Aaron Rodgers for a couple of years. So there's so many examples where that sitting and waiting to work. And look, I'm not the biggest Russell Wilson fan. I haven't been for a number of years, but he is probably the perfect guy to play this season. It's just whether or not they rush him, because I don't think Daboll and Joe Shane have enough leeway and rope themselves. So they might be forced to play probably Jackson Dart a little bit earlier than I would like to see. I would love a full season of them sitting behind Russ.
Full season.
And then moving on next year, or maybe in the last 2 or 3 games to just get a bit of a taste for it if he is going to be your guy next year. I don't really like talking about the worst teams. Like, we'll move on from that because it's very hard. Like, we don't know. Like, so many evaluators over the years will say a team did poorly, but then that guy goes on and surprises a lot of teams. What about just the Packers and Eagles? So for your Eagles, I thought, again, Howie did a great job. Jihad Campbell, he's a position of need for you guys. Goes on the rotation. I loved him as a player from Alabama, and the leadership and all that. I think you got another really good one late in the first round.
I think it also helps with the Nakobe Dean injury.
Yep.
He's not going to be back for a while. I think it's his...
He did his ACL in the first finals game, is that right? Or the last regular season game?
Was it his ACL or was it his kneecap? Anyway, it was bad.
Yeah.
It was a pretty bad injury. So I think he's from Crimson Tide.
Yeah.
He's been taught well. It's a good factory. They are all athletes. I just want to go back to... I want to ask you one question. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, or we're not talking about losers, but explain to me what the Steelers are doing. Are they waiting for Aaron Rodgers, Horo? Because that's the only thing that I could take out of this. Or are they saying Mason Rudolph is their guy for?
Yeah, it looks like they're going to roll with Mason Rudolph. Now, there's some familiarity there, obviously. It's a tough one. I understand where you're going with that. Do they think the draft class at the quarterback position could be better next year? Potentially. That's the way I view it. I always thought this was a deep class in, like, the running backs were really good, a whole heap of offensive linemen. So if that was the need that you had, if you want a quarterback, I believe the quarterbacks class is going to be better next year. So maybe that's what their thought process is. There wasn't an opportunity to improve, like whether they wanted to trade up in the first round.
I don't think they could because of the Metcalf. Remember the Metcalf second round? I think they got rid of their second round pick or something like that. Yeah. So, but I just thought it was interesting. But it just makes me think maybe they're going to give Rodgers a go.
Yeah,
possibly.
He was thrown with Metcalf, so there's a high. Maybe Rodgers was sitting back, waiting, making sure they didn't draft anyone. Now that they haven't drafted anyone, he'll sign within the next week or so.
Yeah, but
Eagles.
Yeah, I'm very happy. Jihad Campbell. I love what he's about. Also, Andrew McCuba.
Yep.
He's really, really good. Obviously, we lost CJ Gardner just after the Super Bowl, so he's going to help there. And also, is it Smail Mondon Jr.?
Okay. No, I didn't go that deep into your draft, but...
It was a late one from Georgia.
Okay.
So just to add another, they call us the Philadelphia Bulldogs these days.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of the Georgia Bulldogs. But I read into him a little bit because you go that deep and you don't really get spoken about a lot.
Yeah.
But apparently he's got bit of strife off the field last
Okay.
year. But if there's a team who can turn one around, Jalen Carter, that's us.
Back with his Georgia Dogs.
Bring him in.
Yep. I
Yeah,
love
so
it.
I'm very happy, mate. I think we plugged a few holes that needed to be filled for next year.
Yep. All right. For my Packers, it was obviously a huge surprise that we eventually addressed the wide receiver position. I like Matt Golden. I like what he can bring to our team. The fact that we doubled down and got another receiver in the third round. The offensive line, we've got some guys that have been performing well over the last couple of years, but to get an upgrade in that position, a lot of our needs, a lot of people thought were defensively, but that's what we've always done at the Packers. So it was good to see them take a bit of a stab and go wide receiver who wasn't super productive, but has traits like the 40 time at the combine was unreal, and I just don't think we've got a number one receiver at the Packers. So
Yeah, just a lot of
we've got a lot of number 2s and 3s,
really good ones.
Yeah.
And you said that this year. You got a lot of threats everywhere, but
Yeah.
no big dog.
Yeah, I'd love for him to become the guy.
What is the what? Like I heard that in the commentary and heard people. Why haven't they ever picked a wide receiver? What's the science behind that?
That was always a frustration for Rodgers, but they'd always done a really good job in the second and third round. So guys like Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Donald Driver, the list goes on. They've always Devontae Adams. They've always done really well in the second round at identifying those guys that slip out of the first round and go on and be productive. So
yeah, no, it's interesting. To see what
and
that
a
was.
part of that has always been because it's a little bit of a complacency because Rodgers was always so good. You could put second, third round wide receivers, free agent wide receivers with him, and he would still throw for 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, whereas the defense was always the part that let us down. So they're always looking to fix that. This year, they've actually given Jordan Love a genuine opportunity to have a receiver that can become a number one, and I hope he does. So
Where was he out of Hoss?
Texas.
Nice.
Texas, yep. Texas wide receiver, Matty Golden. So anything else sort of outside of that, the Shedeur picks, I like what a really interesting pick is a guy that was really polarizing at the back end of the season is Cam Scatterbo. Went to New York too. We talked about the Giants.
Yep.
They got him in the fourth round. They've got a hybrid player in Tyron Tracy that played for him last year. I think Scatterbo. Measurables and all the stuff that he did at his pro day weren't great. And it's more like the film stands out for him.
Yeah.
But the measurables don't really add up to a premier running back. But let's see if he can replicate that from college to NFL. It's going to be different athletes. So he's a really interesting watch, I reckon.
Hoz, I've got a question for you.
Yep.
You see all these parties. They're all having parties. Shedeur's got 50 people. They're dancing. And who makes your party? How many are you letting in the room? Because there's a lot of hanger-oners. They say, hey, man, I've been there for a long time.
Yeah.
But you haven't.
They're trying to cash in.
They're trying to cash in. They want to be on TV, on ESPN.
Want to be part of the crib, the entourage, MT Cribs, MTV Cribs. Remember that show?
How many are you letting in?
Ooh, my two brothers, obviously mum and dad, their partners, 6 again, my partner, kids, and maybe 5 max of my best mates. So what's that? A crew of 12 to 13? What about you?
I'm having a big party. I'm having a full house.
You got the full crib? Yeah,
the bloke I met in Belmont for coffee the other week, you're covered.
Yeah. You know
what
what I love sometimes too when you see like obviously partners that are it's a great opportunity for not only them and their relationship, but you get going the first round and then you just see like everyone in the room starts to get deflated once those money signs start dropping. They go from the first round, that guaranteed money might go for like, for example, Shedeur Sanders, if he'd gone 3, he's going to get like a $40 million contract. He ended up getting like a $1 million contract going in the 5th round. He's lost $40 million.
It's a big difference.
Just sliding. Like all the rest of the family feel that when players slide.
Like,
so
I was hoping for a boat.
I want to be a part of that. I want to be living in a mad crib. So yeah, I reckon about 15 max for me.
Yeah.
We did a Would You Rather on Instagram. And the Would You Rather, and this is, I don't think you can really lose or win by doing either of these.
Nah.
But would you pass on Tom Brady in the draft for 5 rounds, basically, because he went in the 6th round. So every single team passed on him. Or be the Buffalo Bills who traded away the pick that ended up leading to Patty Mahomes.
As you said, they're both going to hurt, but the Brady one hurt me the most. He's the GOAT, man. After the Super Bowl, right now we can't put Patty in that. He's not there.
This is where I'll push back on the Paddy take. Because no one expected Tom Brady to be Tom Brady. There were people and teams that were high on Paddy. So if you trade away a pick for a first rounder who was putting up huge numbers and had all the measurables and had this great arm, yeah, he hasn't reached the where Brady is right now, but he still has the potential to. Like Bills fans, that's the team that the Chiefs have been beaten every year to get into the Super Bowl.
So true.
And that could be your quarterback.
That would hurt.
That's the argument for...
Okay. Did the Bills win with Mahomes?
I think so.
Yeah?
The last 3 years, it's not to say that Josh Allen is not the reason, but Paddy's proven like he's been clutch. He's won 3 Super Bowls. He's been to a 5. He's never not got to an AFC championship game. So, the proof is in the pudding.
I definitely 100% agree with you, but I would have just been... how do they miss that?
Yeah.
But I will say, Tom, no offense, I love you.
That rig.
Oh, man.
Are you drafting that rig?
Yes, because look at mine. I'm drafting this, mate. But actually, that's making me think. With the Bills, the Bills could have been the dynasty.
Who knows? Who knows?
You never know.
Yeah.
Bills mafia.
Speaking of rigs, let's get to Luka and the Lakers. And we're going to start off with this one from Facebook. Andrew Parr is obviously a Lakers fan, and he has written, and Wolves fans say the refs are helping the Lakers. Laugh out loud. What a joke. And Facebook, the next one comes from Facebook, and it's from Amy Bamella. Lakers players keep their heads up and play with high intensity like LeBron. Too many inconsistencies and mistakes over handling the ball and lack of aggressiveness, intensity, and physicality is costing the guys the game. So maybe a couple of LeBron fans not happy with the way this series is going.
Yeah.
As I predicted.
You did. I'll give you that, mate.
The Wolves are better than what people were giving them credit for. And Anthony Edwards is that dude. Now, does that mean they're definitely going to win? No. But we've got one more game and we'll see how Game 5 plays out because all the game, Lakers in 5, all that rubbish. Imagine if it's Wolves in 5.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The Lakers, I think they'll come back and win it. I think they will. But, gee, they frustrate me. I'm not even a Lakers fan. But, man, they got no hustle sometimes. They're just so lapsy-daisy and relaxed and thinking Luka's going to do this and LeBron. Like, it just can't happen. You know, like they might get past, the Timberwolves. I think they're thinking they were going to get past the Timberwolves very easily. They're thinking already about Golden State or someone big like that because some of their effort plays are just terrible. Then Anthony Edwards is just picking them off. He's just going, boys, we're here. Yeah. We're here to play. And
he's got that dog in him.
He's got that mindset and he's just, mate, he's gone up a level in my books from this playoff series. Like he's just such a leader.
He was so good last year too.
I don't know what it is.
He's so good last year in the playoffs. Had a bit of a slow start to this season. Was jacking up a whole bunch of threes this year. But when he gets in, he's got that sort of mentality already. You can see in the last couple of years that he can turn into a playoff player and sort of change up his game. Super impressive. The question that we've got here was Nico Harrison right about Luka and defense after all. I was high on the Lakers, believe it or not. Not after the Luka trade. The Luka trade was obviously awesome. But I loved the Mark Williams trade that didn't eventuate. Pardon me. And that's what I think still to this day, when you trade away Anthony Davis to get a superstar like Luka Doncic, that is 100% the correct trade for the Lakers to do. But I think they fumbled the bag with the medicals and whatever happened with Mark Williams.
I remember that,
I think he would be the perfect player for him right now, and he would be the complementary piece outside of the big three that they've got because they can all score. LeBron, Luka, Reeves, they can score a lot of points. They're missing someone just with some presence through the middle, and I reckon Mark Williams from the Hornets that didn't eventuate with the trade with Dalton Knecht has really cost the Lakers in this series.
Yeah, you can definitely see that from the defensive end. They just struggle sometimes, and I think they're putting so much effort into Edwards, but I was listening to Charles Barkley talk yesterday. They just got to understand that Edwards is going to score points. He's a beast.
Make sure no one else goes
Make sure no one else does. And, but it is so hard. And is it fair to say, Hoz, that Edwards in the playoffs, I just feel he mixes his game up a little bit better than in the season. I don't know what it is. He's just...
It felt like he was conserving his body a little bit more. Like he was throwing up so many threes. I think he even set a record for the most amount of 3 attempts, something like that throughout the season. Like he was I can understand it. He went through his first ever Olympic campaign last year as well, as part of that team.
Yeah.
So maybe he was being less aggressive and just flicking the switch at the right time. But I think the Wolves will obviously move on. There's another really good series going on between Denver and the other LA team. I said that I think they're the most dangerous team in the West, outside of obviously for Oklahoma City, who I think are the favourites to win it. I reckon every Clippers series, if they move on, is going to be a 7-game series. Like they're just that sort of team. So another good series on that side as well.
Yeah, it was a joke. He put up a little prayer and Gordon just absolutely helped him out there.
Oh, how good was that?
That was an airball, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We're going airball.
Yeah.
We're going airball. But I find the one thing I find about that series, mate, is the Nuggets, they led by 20 points in the final quarter, but then the Clippers look way better in the last quarter. They come home hot. So I'm just thinking, like, in the long run, the Clippers might get them. They just look more fitter in the back end.
They got more balance.
I just feel they just look better.
Yeah. Because they're very reliant on Jokic. Jokic has to have all-star caliber numbers every night for them to beat the Clippers. And like we all know, Kawhi is the guy. If Kawhi goes off, the Clippers will probably win. But if he doesn't, there's a good chance James Harden could go off and have a big game. Norman Powell can put up 30, 35 points on you. Even like defensive perimeter guys like Derek Jones Jr., they've just got a really nicely balanced team all the way around. So that's a interesting series to play out. Both those series are going to be good, and it looks like Golden State should be able to get through Houston as well, 3-1 up.
He's doing not a bad little job. Benny Simmons.
Ben Simmons is doing a good role.
He's defending. He's defending hard. I don't know about his offense hasn't been great, but man, they put him on Jokic and he does a job.
Rebounds the ball.
He's strong, man.
Rebounds the ball. Strong as an ox.
Strong as.
Like he was supposed. Like we keep going back to a couple of episodes. He was supposed to be the guy. So, all right, let's get to Shedeur Sanders. I guess we've talked about it a little bit, but just some of the points that I think that I've seen raised about this is the interviews weren't great.
Yep.
And I believe the cockiness about where he was going to go and perceived teams that he maybe was given bad information about where he was probably going to go early.
Yep.
And I can fully understand people bringing up the situation with the family and being in the spotlight and worrying about Dion as potentially a coach for, just say if you're a first-year head coach like Kellen Moore at the Saints, you'd probably hate to have a guy like Shedeur Sanders on your roster and a guy like Deion Sanders coaching at Colorado with the opportunity to be the coach the following year if things didn't go well. So those are some of the things that have been said. I think the Browns have got a steal now because they've got a, in my opinion, he was around that 25 to 45 mark. So they've probably got a second-round quarterback in the 5th round.
Yep.
And he's got an opportunity to play there, I guess, straight away with the Deshaun Watson situation. So, that's sort of my main part with Shedeur.
I just think it's a lot of teams just would have said, like you said, they don't want to deal with all the other stuff. And I was listening to a podcast, and it was actually a really good point. A lot of teams probably need Shedeur, that you're not going to be the guy. Then, unfortunately, mate, that's a slap in the face because you do think you are that guy.
Yeah.
So what you got to do is you got to go reassess where you're at. So your role now, especially even in the Browns, you're not the quarterback, so it's not about you. In that quarterback room, you got to look at tape. You got to help out that quarterback because I was saying they were going into a little bit of they didn't know if he could do that.
Can he be a sponge? Can he learn from other veteran quarterbacks?
Or am I too good already?
Yeah.
You haven't even played, mate. Just because your dad's Showtime and you got to earn your stripes no matter where you go. And I think it was a bit of a wake up call for him.
I think so,
and probably his family too.
Credit to him, he handled it really well.
Yeah, he did.
He put on a brave face.
Yeah.
The interview process, by all accounts, didn't go well with teams, and they thought that he was probably a little bit underprepared, and maybe had ambitions that were too lofty, and he didn't go where he's going to go. But in saying that, like I did feel for him as it went on, especially when he went out of the 3rd round.
Yeah,
like because he is on talent, he's a 2nd round at worst quarterback in this draft, but because of all the things that you'd have to consider if you're a franchise, if you're a coach, if you're a GM. I can understand why teams went, do we really need that if we don't honestly believe he is our guy?
Absolutely. That's what it is, Hoss. I can guarantee you. And also, one really, really bad call. Hindsight's a beautiful thing. Not having an agent killed you. Not knowing, he had no idea where he was going.
Selling you to teams. You're right.
He had no idea.
No idea.
He was just listening to the opinion of his dad.
Yeah.
And look, I love that he trusts his dad so much, but mate, I reckon he would have been earlier if he had an agent. I'll tell you there.
Yeah, I think so. That's a good shout.
Really do.
That's a good shout because they also have connections, right? They infiltrate. Pool. They've got Paul.
It's like here.
I might be able to help you out with a signing down the road.
Exactly.
Get Shedeur from the 5th to the 3rd for me if he ends up dropping, or at least give him information where he's not sitting around watching a stream for 5 hours straight. Like, if you're an agent and you found he was going out in the 5th round, maybe don't do the stream.
Make you don't look silly.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. So that's a good shout. All right. That's basically it for all the NBA and NFL for now. Let's get to the Pick 6 presented by Tab. And this is our way too early Super Bowl odds.
I love it.
We've got them up here as well. I've got them here on the lappy. We've got the current Super Bowl champions. The jersey you're wearing, the jumper you're wearing. Philadelphia Eagles are $7. Baltimore Ravens are $8. Kansas City Chiefs are $8 as well. And on the next line are the Buffalo Bills. So the next biggest threat in the NFC is the Detroit Lions at 10, who had a sneaky good draft as well too, by the way, and the Bears. So rivals in my NFC North. Anyone scare you outside of your Eagles, mate?
The Commanders going to get better.
Commanders.
Yeah, I actually think they had a pretty good draft too. And
good off season.
It's actually turning out to be a even what the Giants done.
Yeah.
They're going to eventually get better. Abdul Carter, I think if they keep him, he's going to be there for a long time. Who knows with Jackson Dart? So it's turned into
competitive division potential.
Very competitive. And Dallas might be lagging. What about Dallas? Quickly.
Dallas, I like the guard that they got. I didn't have a deep enough look into the seconds and third round, but there was all the chat was they wanted Tet McMillan, who ended up going at 9. That was the player that they were hoping for to drop to 12. Maybe you had to make a move for him. But, I love what the guard, I think Tyler Booker is his name. I loved the interview that he had with Micah Parsons. And
that was cool.
That was a really cool moment after. So that's probably got them excited. I like your Eagles, mate. I really like your Eagles. I love what they've done in the offseason. They got rid of players I think they could have got rid of. They've had a good draft. They've kept all their core players. Few of their core players, like Cam Jurgens, has been upgraded recently. And the key players that made their Super Bowl run are still on team. Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Smith and Brown at wide receiver, top-tier offensive line, absolute freak, one of my favourite players. You know how much I love talking about Jalen Carter.
Yep.
Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell in the back who had really good rookie season. So
my favourite player.
And I love the pick that you had, Jihad Campbell. And Grubby, as always, for free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
Producer Shabs, big Eagles fan.
Yeah.
Not happy. He thinks our tight end's gone.
Well, I was trying to tell him all throughout the playoff series, he's going, no, so-and-so's going to get us, so-and-so. He's just like a Debbie Downer sometimes, isn't he, Producer Shabs?
What's he? I come in here today. I said, what's wrong? He said, got no tight end.
It's all that Tigers. It's that West Tigers energy that he's got.
That's what
he
it
needs
is.
to remove that West Tigers energy and bring some of that Philadelphia championship energy in here.
Champ.
All right, mate. We'll see you next week, and we'll have some huge results on what's happening in the NBA playoffs.